first step to making our mandala is to get a square piece of paper. So as you see here, I have just a regular printer piece of paper, which I'm guessing probably a lot of you guys had, but all paper really comes in rectangles, so we gotta switch this into our square. Easiest way to do that is to fold it diagonally, as you'll see I've done here. So what I do is I take one corner, I'm gonna fold it down. I want to look at this corner here and make sure it gets folded exactly in half, and then the paper needs to line up those two edges all the way across exactly. Now from here, you want to kind of take your finger out and fold it all the way down. Once you folded it in half, diagonally like this, it will give you this long thin rectangle on the side. If we cut this edge off, it will give us a perfect square exactly. So you could draw a line, or you could just hold it folded together like this and just trim off that extra. Perfect. Now, if you took your time and folded it nicely, you should have an exact square. From here, we need to take this square and cut it into 8 sections. Not really cut, but split it into 8. So we've already folded it in half once this way. We need to fold it in half once the other diagonal as well. So I'll take that corner, fold it down, line it up, finger back, hold it, slide out, slide out. You'll know if you made your square really well if those 2 points come together really nicely. Open it up. So we split it into 4 sections. We got to split it 2 more times. So there's 4 ways you can split a square in half. 1, 2. Now we need this way. So we'll fold half this way. Line up the corners and the edge. Slide it back. Across, across. Should come to the perfect exact meeting point there. Open it up. Now we'll need to fold in half this way. Line up those corners. Take your time with it. Fold out, crease, and crease. So if we open up our paper, it should give us a total of 8 sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. These folds are what's going to help us to create our design, our mandala. Mandalas are radial, so that means it has multiple lines of symmetry. So each fold that we make will end up being a line of symmetry. And our design is going to fit inside one of the triangles exactly and then repeat itself all the way around. So now you got to figure out your design. What is your mandala going to be of? If you've noticed in the hallway this last year, there have been mandalas made by the classes done with their names. So you could choose to draw out your name for this. Or if you want, you could choose to make your mandala with more random shapes. I'm going to show you a name. If you choose to do a name, I recommend watch my other little video that is how to draw bubble letters, because that's going to be really helpful for this. So I want to fill in one triangle. So I'm only looking at one little triangle out of my entire 8. I'm going to kind of cover up the rest, not think about them. I'm using those folds to help me out. I would not advise going over these lines with your pencil. I'm just kind of showing you your space so you can see it a little better. Okay. So your design does need to fill up the entire thing, and you want to make sure that each design has something that touches the bottom and that top edge. So I'm going to spell out my name on this. Again, if you watch that other video, it'll show you how to draw bubble letters nice and easily and quickly. Now I want you to take a second and notice here. In my triangle design, each of my letters touches both the top fold and the bottom fold in that triangle. That is going to be key for this design, because when we end up tracing it into the next section over, we need it to go over that edge and touch the one from the other side. So make sure your shapes and designs touch both the top and the bottom. So we got the bottom there. I'll put the top for the dot. Then for the second half of the triangle, I want it to go off the top edge up here and still touch that bottom edge. So I chose to do my last name. You can do your first name. You could do a name of somebody else, your parent, your best friend, your dog, whatever. All right, so I've made it all the way across. Again, key things. Each letter goes off the bottom edge and that top edge. So it goes over those folds. That's going to be really, really useful as we go on. I think it also is really nice if you fill up the entire triangle. Make sure you get stuff all the way to the end and all the way down on the tip. It helps fill that space and it'll make your image look nicer in the end. Let's pause for a second and I want to show you some different options besides just doing your name. Maybe instead of your name, you want to choose a more abstract design. That's totally great, totally an option. I'm going to follow that same sort of technique though. I'm going to think about just one triangle to start off with. Doesn't matter which one. I can do whatever sort of design I want. Maybe I'm going to have some bumps coming out here. Maybe there'll be a little circle. Maybe some stuff there. Then maybe some random line here coming in. Some shapes. So the key thing here is when you're thinking about your triangle that you're drawing inside, make sure that you have some designs go off the edge of the folds on either side, just like you would with your letters. This is going to make it so when you trace it, my next one over here will end up being an exact opposite. So give or take, it's going to look something like that. And then it'll look like that. And we'll see kind of that design showing through that way. That's just a little quick sketch of what it could be. But you see how it's going to start to create a really cool random design. I recommend you really fill that space with something interesting though. It can be whatever you want it to be. Just make sure some of them go off this bottom fold, some of them go off the top fold. Maybe another one, I could have it have some zigzags coming there, going again to that folded edge. Maybe I'm going to have lots of little triangles on the inside. Maybe from the center, I want to have a little loop like that. Maybe it's going to have a curly Q there. A big star there. And some bubbles there. Maybe some little circles in those bubbles. I don't know, I'm just trying to fill in that triangle, making sure some things touch each of the folded lines. So when I go to trace this one could end up, let's see if I can just freehand this. Remember, you're going to want to follow the next steps, and I'll show you how to do this, but you can kind of see how this would turn out instead of a name. Again, you are not drawing like this. I'm just trying to show you what this could look like. Maybe something like that. So you can see how your shapes kind of go together. So really think about what your options are. Do you want to do more abstract like this one or this one? Or do you want to go more with a name like I showed you before? Kind of like that. You get to decide. I'm going to show you how to finish this off with the name one. All right, from here, what I advise doing is tracing over your letters with something dark. Could be a dark pen, could be a Sharpie. I happen to have a gray marker sitting around here, so I'm going to use this one. Going over these lines is going to make your life so much easier when it comes to our next step, which is tracing. When we trace, we're going to use our windows to help us out with the tracing aspect of this. So we need to be able to see our lines through paper. So if our lines are a bit darker, it's going to be easier to see. So take a second and outline whatever it is your image is. right. Once you've outlined, I advise take a second and see if there's any pencil lines showing through and erase them. So that way you don't get confused when it comes to tracing. Just erase any of those extra lines. There we go. All right. Now, a great way to check to see if your marker that you've done is dark enough is to fold your paper in half, hold it up to the light, and see if you can see through the paper to see your writing. It's hard to see in this video, but yes, I can see through mine. All right, so what we're going to do now, in just a second, I'm going to flip my camera and we're going to actually look out a window. And we're going to use a window to help us trace. And we are going to fold our paper on one of the edges that touches our template. So I'm going to start with this one. Actually, I want to start with this one. So I'm going to fold my paper on this line. So it folds in half. Ooh, sorry. I need to fold it in half, but I need to make sure this front side, where my drawing's going to be, is on the top. So I'm actually going to fold it behind. See what I mean there? So this front side, the side we're drawing on, is on top, and the image goes behind. Now we're going to hold this up to the window, and we'll be able to see through it to our other design, and we'll trace it out. Let me show you what I mean. All right, so I have it with the front side of my paper facing towards me, and it's folded in half so the side I already drew on is facing out. I put a little piece of tape to hold my paper against the window, but I want to make sure I tape it not in the area I'm trying to draw, because I'm trying to draw in this spot right here. Now, if you hold your paper together, you should be able to see through it. And you're going to trace your image, whether it's your word, your design, whatever it is, exactly how you see it. So it's actually going to show up backwards. That is what it's supposed to do. Now, tracing things on a window, your hand can get a little wobbly. That's pretty common. It's okay. My advice would be just draw out the entire thing, trace it as close as you can, and then once you finish it, take it down and do it on your table and fix up your lines and draw it regularly. All right, so I've traced over every single line that is there. Now let me show you back normally to show you how this looks. All right, so I've taken it back down. I'm going to very gently peel off my tape so it doesn't rip my paper. And if I open up my paper, we should see the two designs touching each other. So now's the time that you're sitting it down flat. If you notice you messed up anywhere, or if your lines got really wobbly, because sometimes drawing vertically is hard, take a second and smooth out those lines. It's much easier now that you're on a flat surface instead of trying to draw things vertically. So clean up your lines where you need to. Erase anything that shouldn't be there, things like that. Okay, now just like before, I'm going to take my same pen, marker, whatever you have, and I'm going to trace over these lines. Now it's really cool if you're noticing the letters match up on the folds exactly. So my R extends all the way from one side across the fold and then goes backwards on the other side. That's why we wanted to make sure our design goes all the way to that fold. All right. Once you've traced it, again, I recommend let your pen marker dry and take your eraser and clean up any lines that you don't want to see from your pencil. All right, so we are a quarter of the way done. We got 2 of our 8 sections. Now that we have 2 of them, what I think we should do is to move on to doing 2 at a time instead of just one triangle. So if I took my paper, and I think about my front side here, so this is the side I want to draw on, I'm going to fold it on this fold with my drawing I just did going behind, folding it in half this way. Now, when I hold it up to the light, I'm going to see 2 sections that I can trace. This way I can get 2 of them done. Now, this is a lot more to trace at once, so your arm might get a little tired. My advice, take a second, shake out your hand. You don't have to rush through this. Take your time. Just make sure that you're drawing on the same side. So when it opens up, all your drawing's on one side. So when I fold this, my previous drawing has to go behind it. Okay? All right, I taped it on my window again. I'm going to take my time and I'm going to trace over it. All right, got that traced up. Again, I'm just going to clean up my lines a little. Gently peel off my tape. And when I open it up, I should have half of it done now. So to finish tracing, I'm going to do the same thing again. So I'm going to go over it with my marker. So I'm going to have half of it traced. Once that's all done, I can do all my tracing for the bottom half all at once. So I'll trace over these with my marker. And then my last time I trace against the window, I'll fold it in half this way. Get it back on that crease. Drawing I've already done on the back, side I want to do on the front. And I can do all 4 sections all at once. So I'll speed up and show you the rest of the process really quickly. Really make sure that you're taking your time, that it lines up on those corners, or edges, I mean. Try to smooth out your lines the best you can, and really take your time with this. You're going to be a lot slower at this than I am. All right, I've traced out the whole thing. Tape off. Couldn't quite trace where my tape was, but I could figure that out. And boom. Now my entire thing is drawn. Now this shows radial balance really well. Remember I said how it has multiple lines of symmetry? So you can see how every time there's a fold, the image is a mirror image going over it. That's why sometimes your name is backwards, sometimes it's forwards. You can also see why going over the folds is so important, because it makes it to create one big shape instead of individual little ones. So from here, I would finish tracing over everything with my marker, and then I'd get on to coloring. I think it's really cool when you color this to do the same color all the way around. So let's say, for instance, maybe I wanted to have a pink. I would color all of my M's going all the way around that same color. This is going to turn your original just letter into a new and interesting shape, because it's 8 of them connecting together in this radial design. It's not only would it be that half, it would also be this half. I like to color mandalas with either marker or colored pencil. If you want, you could even do a combination of both. Just make sure you really take your time. And you color the same thing, the same color, all the way around. That's really going to help emphasize that radial balance, those multiple lines of symmetry. So there we go. You see how that M now created this new, interesting shape. Maybe that could be my new superhero emblem or something like that. So again, I'm just going to trace out the rest of them with my nice dark marker, and then I will color them. You could color the background, you could add patterns. Just remember, whatever you do in one section, you have to repeat it in all the other ones to keep that radial design.